Our lovely Tanisha to get started. Thank you.
How are you? How is
Hello.
Okay, good afternoon. So welcome. So this is really exciting for the Mount Sinai Health System military veteran ERG program because this is like our first big event in our panel. And we are starting off really, really strong here with two phenomenal women celebrating Women's History Month. So I just want to briefly introduce the military veteran ERG here at Mount Sinai. We advocate for veterans who are working, primarily in healthcare and I'm sorry, I'm a little bit nervous, but I'm just doing all kinds of outreach and support and bringing the Mount Sinai community together as it pertains to Veterans Affairs. So my name is Tanisha Miles. I am a manager here at Mount Sinai Morningside Department of Food and Nutrition. And my partners in crime are Carol St. Pierre, a nurse navigator, nursing clinical coordinator at the Rutenberg Treatment Center at the Mount Sinai Hospital, and Norma Kalam at Director of Human Resources at Mount Sinai, Queens, and she is a retired major of the New York Army National Guard. So we've been working together, I would say, for about 2 years, having our meetings and brainstorming on ideas. We had an event last year, and this is our first panel working as a team. So thank you for coming. It's Commissioner Viviana DeCohen and Sharon Lindsey. I'm going to start. I just went in alphabetical order, starting with Commissioner Viviana DeCohen. You were appointed December 2021 as the Commissioner of the New York State Department of Veterans Affairs. You are a veteran of the U.S. Marine Corps, and you previously served as the Commissioner of the Mount Vernon Veterans Service Agency. And you also served as an associate pastor at the Mount Vernon Heights Congregational Church. One of your highlights is that you were just you are the Veterans Affairs, the United States Department of Veterans Affairs 2021 Trailblazer. You were given that distinction. And I'm going to move on to Miss Sharon Lindsey. You most distinctive is that in 2011, you were inducted into the New York State Veterans Hall of Fame. You are a Army veteran, and you've been working for decades now in nutrition and nutritional education in New York State. I'm sorry, I have all my notes. You were also given the highest honor in New York State. You were given the Liberty Medal, and it was the highest honor bestowed upon an individual by the New York State Senate for your work in the Army and your outreach work and your food pantries. You are currently the I'm so sorry about this. You are the CEO of Vets Incorporated, and you oversee several food pantries in the New York City area. So now I'm going to take it over to you ladies. Today, our goal is a panel discussion. We're going to be discussing your experience in the military and any wisdom that you may want to share with us. And now I'm going to pass it over to you all. We're going to start with you, Commissioner DeCohen, and if you could just introduce yourself and all the amazing work that you do.
Great afternoon, everyone. Commissioner Viviana DeCohen, aka Mama V for Victory, USMC. I got my start in education, going back to school, as many of you know, that this is where it began, and needing a quiet place to study, and the campus didn't have one. And so 5 of us decided to make a veteran center. And then we found out that some of our veterans were dropping out. And we went to the president and said, veterans don't fail in school. Schools fail veterans. So we decided to make the Operation Buddy Up. One push, the other one pull. Long story short, the school hired me. We found out that over 200 veterans who checked the box as a veteran were academically expelled due to low grade point averages. We have the college bring them all back under Operation Buddy Up. They all graduated. My 0.9 graduated 3.1. My 1.5 graduated 3.1. They all graduated bachelors, and then Operation Push pushed them all into the Masters of Organizational Leadership, because that Masters resembles everything we did in boot camp. They all graduated, all 211 of them have their Masters 4.0. We sent one to Harvard. That was my door opening, and that was my claim to fame.
Great.
That garnished me that title, Mama V, which I hold on to for victory, because we were actually pulling veterans out of shelter who had classes at 5 p.m. and finding judges and attorneys to give them 1 year rent-free opportunities so that they could readily have their academic studies.
Thank you so much. So now we're going to move over to Miss Sharon Sweeting. Lindsey, if you wouldn't mind telling us a little about yourself and all the amazing things that you do on behalf of our veterans. I think you're on mute.
Sharon, you're on mute.
Sharon?
Yeah, okay.
Okay.
You hear me?
Much better.
All right. Good afternoon, everybody. And I want to say hello again to Viviana. We first met 2 years ago at the Black Caucus up in Albany. We were on the same panel for veterans and women, and it was really a pleasure to meet you. And it's good seeing you again. And I know the great work that you're doing up in Albany. And she's not really, I know I'm supposed to tell, but I just want to tell you what she has been doing behind the scenes. For the first time, she acknowledged the fact that veteran posts were struggling. I'm a post commander in Queens, and my post had gone into a state of serious decline. She initiated a statewide program where veterans could get their posts brought up to date and to be able to sustain themselves. So I personally want to thank you for that, because we really needed it. Our post had been in existence since 1934. So we're going on almost our 100th anniversary. And of course, our veterans couldn't maintain it the way they used to. And with the pandemic, most of the posts were closing. So that program really gave us an underwing in terms of helping us to sustain. So again, thank you so much for that. Okay, now a little bit about myself. I'm a registered, certified, and licensed dietitian. And I started in the military about 40 years ago now. And I went in as a food service specialist, and I was able to get my registered license and certified license. And then I was promoted to a captain. No, a first lieutenant, second lieutenant, and then captain. And I worked my way up to major. Part of the blessings that I have had from the military is that when they had an opening in New York City Department of Corrections, I was able to go and I was able to interview. And when I walked into that correctional kitchen, which I had never been in before, it was like a flashback. It looked just like a military kitchen. The equipment was the same. You know, the whole structure was basically the same. And so because of that, I was able to get the job as the Deputy Executive Director for Food Service for New York City Department of Correction. And we served, unfortunately, 20,000 inmates and 10,000 officers in 22 different facilities. That included Rikers Island and the borough facilities as well. So I think that is my biggest accomplishment in terms of being an Army veteran. In terms of what I'm doing now, I am the post commander of American Legion Post 483. And prior to that, I was the executive director of Vets, Inc. I had gotten a job working as a consultant. And when I retired, I didn't want to work full time. I just wanted to, you know, sort of work a little bit, but I got a job at JCAT. And what happened at JCAT was that those were veterans in drug treatment, but they didn't want to acknowledge their veteran status. So I was asked to start a veteran program within the context of JCAT. And we must have had about 50 veterans in there, and we got them out. And I understand exactly what you did, Viviana. We took them out of the drug treatment programs. We started a specific based veteran program within the drug treatment, and we got them jobs, we got them housing. And one of the things that came back to me was that they said the housing that they were getting was not what they had been trained or had been, I guess, re-educated to endure. So they needed a veteran facility that would continue their veteran standards and be drug-free. And what happened is I literally was driving in the neighborhood one day, saw a house that was under construction, went and found out it was for sale. And myself and a partner, we purchased the house and we opened up Honor House. And it had 10 veterans. And then because I'm in food service, you know, I had to feed them. So I opened up pantry number 1 with the 10 veterans, and then we started feeding the community. I opened up a soup kitchen, and then the other veteran post started saying, "Oh, you got a pantry at your facility?" I said, "Yeah, can you open me one?" So 10 years later, I've opened up 6 new sites. They're all at American Legion VFW locations. They're all veteran operated, and we have 2 pending now. Okay, so that's really my biggest accomplishment in terms of really reaching out to the veteran community and the community at large to feed them. And me being a dietitian, you know, I feed them well. Okay, thank you.
I have personal knowledge of that working in food service, so salute to you indeed, Ms. Sharon. So we're just going to start out with the first question. If you could just tell us both in your own words, it is Women's History Month we're celebrating. If you could think of a woman who's inspired you, and what's the best piece of wisdom that you've received? And we'll start with you, Commissioner.
I'm gonna tell you right now. For me, it's way back in the Bible, because men act like they're just discovering us and that we're just starting to be, you know, fabulous and fierce. So for me, if they wanted me to think that I was property and not worth anything, they should have taken out Deborah, who was in the book of Judges. Deborah was judge over all of Israel, a woman who called the general of the army, and he came standing at attention. And she said, "I need you to fight." And he said, "I will fight for you, but I will not fight unless you're by my side." So she was already the judge over Israel, a warrior. They went to war, they won the war, and then she came back and wrote a song about it, honey. So somebody who was already judge over Israel, come on, somebody who was already large and in charge and running it, and people were coming to her for the advice, a warrior who did not hesitate to get on the front lines, because this is what we do as women. There was a commercial 1,000 years ago that says, "I can bring home the bacon, fry it up in a pan, and never let you forget your man." Why? Because we can take 2 grains of rice and know how to feed an entire family.
Are you people?
$1 or a penny, and we know how to spend it, how to stretch it. We can do all things. So for me, that, forgive my language, that badass woman in the Bible, Deborah, that is it, who allowed me to know that I could do anything and everything, and we can.
Amen.
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 Uh-huh. Definitely.
So over to you, Miss Sweeting Lindsey. What is the best piece of wisdom that you've received?
I think, well, the woman that really inspired me,
Take your time.
my grandmother who came here from Barbados, okay, and my mother. Those were the 2 most inspiring people in my life. They taught me never to give up. That's why I did so well in the military. I never gave up. They taught me to always keep my eye on my destination, that the road would not be easy, and that I would have some distractions, but to just keep the faith, stay the course, and a delay is not a denial. And I've operated on that premise all my life. I've made sure that everything I've done was decent and in order. I've tried to carry myself as a righteous Black woman. I've tried to represent my family, uh, excuse me, myself, and just always have a positive image. I'm sorry, what was the second half of the question? I didn't know I'd get this emotional.
You answered everything and you answered it beautifully. I just wanted to know, you told me who were the women that inspired you and the best piece of wisdom that they gave you, and you answered it.
You answered it.
Oh,
You give us
beautiful.
more than what we asked for.
That's so beautiful.
Thank
Mhm.
So I'm gonna move into the questions now. The first question is, what inspired you both? I'll let you guys, will kind of take it from here. To get in, to pursue a career in the military.
I'm going to defer to the commissioner naturally.
Thank you. I had no intention of joining the military. I was in college at Lincoln University in Pennsylvania. I had my sights set on being a thoracic surgeon. I was in first year, but in my first year, I was already taking third-year courses. I was amazing with the cadaver. The professors were like, wow, you're going to be amazing. I had no problems taking that body apart, honey. And then President Reagan came in, and I was not astute on voting. I did not realize the power behind a vote because the first thing that Reagan did was cut the educational budget, and I lost my scholarship. Well, I am also of Caribbean descent, and my parents were on the road. We did not have a car. We were very poor. There were a lot of things that we did not have. We grew up with other critters in our house who wanted to take charge and did not have a lot of things. My mother baked bread, and we would either have peanut butter or no jelly, or jelly and no peanut butter. And my dad worked nights so that my mother could go back to school, and then switched around and she became a nurse. In the Caribbean, you're going to be two things. You're either going to be a school teacher or you are
Or a
going to be a
nurse.
nurse.
Or
And
nurse.
so
That's it.
when they were on the road to pick me up from college, my mother had already had the conversation that you will come home and go to nursing school and be a nurse with me. And she was prepared. Well, when I came home, I had already had a dream that evening before the next morning that I was down, did not know if this was so, if women were in the Marine Corps, but I was not a dreamer. This was my first vivid dream that said United States Marine Corps headquarters. So when they picked me up, I said nothing. That next morning, I got up early and I went down in the Bronx on Fordham Road and I joined the United States Marine Corps. So when I came back, my mother said, oh, you're already dressed. Well, okay, good. Let's go. Let's go and sign you up for nursing school. And I says, no, ma'am, I joined the United States Marine Corps. And she thought that I was nuts, because she says women are getting raped in the military. They're going to kill you. You're 95 pounds and not even 5 feet tall yet. They're going to stomp you and you're going to fail. And my own church had money bets against me that I would not last one day.
And you did more than last. We can.
Not only you rose, yeah, you rose, definitely.
Definitely.
Marines have a reputation being one of the toughest branches in the military.
Said well, the whip hit and Major knows that Sharon Sweeney will tell you, the ones from the 60s, the 70s, the 80s, we were the experiment for what is now the norm, because they announced to us that we were going to experience the male Marine obstacle course. So those women from the 60s, the 70s, the 80s, I'm 1983 to 87, we were the experiment on the male Marine obstacle course. There were 44 in my unit, and 14 of us remained, and they kept having to put the different platoons together because the women were dropping out and going home. I wanted to drop out too, but the money bets against me said that I had to stay and stick it out, and vomiting on the drill instructor's shoes. I had to keep forging forward. And so I did.
Mhm. Mhm.
And for you, Miss Sweeting Lindsey, what made you join the Army?
Actually, it was a sign. I was working as a dietitian in downtown Brooklyn, and the Armory on Bedford and Atlantic, at that particular time, it was an active military army. It was an active military location. And every day on my way to work, I would get caught at the light on Bedford and Atlantic. And I read this sign about join the reserve, X amount of dollars a month. And I had just purchased a home. So, of course, the additional funds would help with the mortgage. And so that's how I decided to join. But then when I thought about it, I said, okay, it will help me educationally, financially, it will strengthen my character. And so that was the reason why I joined the military. And it really turned out to be an exponential experience. I think I really learned so much more. In fact, I know I did. It made me such a better person. It made me feel confident, more efficient. And just as a sidebar, a lot of the things that I learned in the military, I actually implemented in New York City Department of Corrections. For example, if you're in food service, they have a production sheet where you indicate, who's going to do what, how much food to cook. They didn't have that in corrections when I went there. It was just, Mary, you cook this, John, you cook that. There was no record. And so when I went in, I said, you, as big as institute, you don't have a record. You just tell Mary to do this and John to do that. And they said, no, everything was verbal. Well, I really formalized their ordering system. I formalized the production system. And I sent every person that wasn't trained in food service on a rotating basis with the 22 facilities. I partnered with the New York City Department of Health to get them their food service sanitation license, because a lot of them didn't have it. And the mindset was that you're cooking for inmates, just feed them and put them back in their cells. But I did bring a sense of quality and integrity. No, you're not feeding inmates, you're feeding people. And when you feed people, you feed them with dignity and with respect. And if you're not going to eat it, then you don't serve it to them. And that was really my mantra. If you're not going to eat it, don't serve it to them. And so I did feel that when I left, we had instituted a lot of programs that did make the department be in compliance. Oh, and I got the position because they were out of compliance. They had been sued by the federal government. I think it was Malcolm versus Ward versus New York City Department of Corrections. And I became basically the unofficial compliance person, bringing the department into compliance in terms of the therapeutic menus. They had none. They had no therapeutic menus. In terms of the halal kosher menus, they had none. And also the training of the department. So that was a big accomplishment, but I know I left them much better than when I went.
So you ladies are amazing, by the way, because you've basically answered a lot of the questions already. Like you've kind of like summed up everything. So we can now dive a little bit deeper into the conversation. I both hear you speak about when I talked about, where did you draw wisdom from, and your experience in the military. I'm hearing some kind of recurring themes here about like grit and resilience. And, we're in Women's History Month, and us ladies know a thing or two about, having to juggle and balance. So I wanted to know if you could just tell us, how did your military experience, like Viviana, you said you were one of the, lack of a better word, the guinea pigs. That's a lot of pressure. That's a lot of mistakes were probably made as far as, kind of shaping a training, a schedule with the first class. So I'm sure you probably experienced things that now you see women who have fallen to Marines didn't experience. So could you both maybe touch on how your experience in the military, sorry about that, shaped you to, kind of built up your grit and your resilience?
Listen, Sharon's reading Lindsey. She said it, and it is true. And she's letting us know that we are 40 years ago, and here we are today to tell you that 40 years later, the excellence that has been pounded into you the ability to take who you are as a woman who's creative, but to have the boldness to go forth with nothing and not just create something, but create something that's masterful. Here's the thing that I tell people about those who've served, because I don't even say veteran anymore. I say for those who've served, because so many of us didn't even know that we were veterans. For those who've served, you know what it is to have to stand out in the rain. You know what it is to have to do guard duty in that thunder, the lightning, in worse conditions. You remember what it was in that gas chamber to have to take off the mask and how much mucus came out of you you didn't even know existed, and just wrap it around your waist and move on. You learn how to have talk against you, and they were allowed to hit us when we were in. I'm sorry, I got the black eye. The DI came out of the pit with the bloody nose. We have to scrub the floor and the toilet with the toothbrush and then brush our teeth with it. We knew what it was to have a foot on our neck, but it causes you to rise up, so that when we came out of the military, because I have the worst transition ever, it allowed you to maintain that grit, though, that no matter what, good times, bad times, dark times, let people talk, it did not matter, that you always had to get up from that place where you were looking downward, where you were laying on the ground, where your body was aching. You were always going to get up to forge forward. And this is what I love about us as women. We know how to get called back to things that are broken and how to piece it together. And here's the thing, we never want the glory. We want you to shine. We want your agency to shine. We will show up late. We will learn that job in a heartbeat. We will be the first to arrive, the last leave, and we want you to get the shine. We just want to do our assignment and keep on marching forward to make things better for somebody else.
And so it seems like it looks like Sharon, you also agree with exactly what she's saying. So you just touched on evolving back in the civilian life. So we do have veterans that work here at Mount Sinai, and or maybe we have family members or someone in our networks that might be evolving back in civilian life. If you both could just maybe share your best advice, especially for women veterans, what are some things that maybe you would have done differently when you evolved back into civilian life, or just best practices, I guess?
Well, I personally didn't have to transition because I always was a reservist. So I always had one foot in the civilian life and one foot in the reservist life. And I used that opportunity to complement one another. And again, everything I learned in the military, I brought it back to my civilian life. And people recognized, and they would come to me and they would say, "Oh, you do this so well." Then maybe a little while later, they'd find out that I was a veteran. And they say, "Now I know why you're so disciplined. Now I know why, but I never knew that you were a veteran in the military." We can see it now. It makes sense. They were able to connect the dots. And so I know personally that all the skill sets that I did learn in the military, and it's very hard. And remember, I was married and I had, let me think now, I already had 2 kids. I had 2 children. I had my 2 oldest children, and I got pregnant with my youngest child when I was in the military, and I actually took him to Fort Dix with me 6 weeks into him being born. And that was because they did not want to give me my promotion. They did not want to give me a commission. And I literally, if I could just take time to share this with you, talk about tenacity. I had my master's degree. I had been enlisted. I had been working in the kitchen. I had been working in the hospital. And they said because of my age, I think I was in my early 30s, but I was past the time to be promoted. And so I said, no, age is just a number. I've done my due diligence.
I think you're on mute again.
Sharon, you're on your mute.
Sharon?
Sharon?
Okay, you can still hear me?
Yeah, I could hear you
Wait.
now.
Okay, so when they denied me to become commissioned because of my age, I said no. I actually wrote the Pentagon. Okay, people said, oh, no, yes, I wrote the Pentagon. And I wrote them a letter and I stated factually, not emotionally, why I needed to be promoted. I had the experience, I had the education, and I had been doing everything that I needed to do right there at Fort Hamilton at the time. And I literally got a call one Saturday morning from the Pentagon. And they said, you know, Specialist Sweeting, Lindsey. I said, yeah. They said, this is the Pentagon, and we got your letter, and we're going to send you to Fort Dix and have you evaluated. And I literally had just had my son. I went in August. He was born in June. So he was just able to go into the nursery at Fort Dix. And I took him. He stayed in the nursery. I went to the hospital and I demonstrated my know-how and my skill sets. And of course, I was able to pass everything. But even with the baby on my back, I was able to overcome the obstacles. And then that's how I got promoted or at least commissioned for the first time. And I was able to rise up. So I didn't let anything stop me. Okay, I couldn't stay on the barracks as, you know, Commissioner DeCohen knows. I couldn't stay in the barracks because I didn't have what they call a BQ status, right? So I stayed at the Doughboy Hotel, right, which is on base, and I went to class every day, and I dropped my son off at the daycare every morning. He was only 6 weeks old. He's been traveling ever since. So I'm telling you, if you want to do it, you will find a way. And of course, you know, I'm a very spiritually based woman from my grandmother and my mother. So I knew God had my back, and I just kept on moving.
That's amazing. Like you got this, you ladies are making this so easy for me.
No, listen, she's right. So, you know, we all have her story. That's why her story is so important, because we all have a story. I was in North Carolina and I had already moved my family back there. So my transition, you know, I went right into working at Sears because I was supply. So parts and services was the thing. So I was able to go there. But I married young. Listen, I was the one that when they went overseas and they said, listen, don't get married right away. I was like, but mama, I love him. Mama, I love him. Daddy, I love him. And got married. And listen, I have my two babies. I was 22 years old with my Irish twins, 10 months apart. So when I got out, I thought we were doing well and, you know, working together in North Carolina. And honey, he saw the little money that my little grandfather gave me for my little spending inheritance and took the money and took off and left me with my two babies. And I thought that I was okay because, you know, here I'm a Marine, you know, and once a Marine, always a Marine, and I'm working at Sears and I'm doing well and I'm management and I'm doing great. And I went to get an advance and told them what happened. They said the economy hit this morning. The economy hit. We have to give you a pink slip. And I had to go back and tell the babysitter, you know, I can't use you anymore. I lost my job. And my mother was on the island at the time. And my grandmother here in New York was on a church trip. His grandmother was out of town. And we were coming home and that was it. And 3 days, the judge says, you have 72 hours. I said, 72 hours for what? He said, to pay the rent. My rent was only $250 and I did not have it. The bank account was zero. Zero. I humbled myself. I went to Navy Relief and they said, ma'am, the economy just tapped out. We can't help you. I went to American Red Cross that says, ma'am, the economy just tapped out. I humbled myself and went to welfare. They said, ma'am, this is not New York. We have to try to find your husband 45 to 60 days. I said, well, do you have emergency food stamps? Because I didn't even get a chance to go grocery shopping. They said, ma'am, this is not New York. There's no such thing here. And I want you to know they came and they put the notice on my door. And on the third day they came and they put the padlock and the eviction notice on my door. And I heard my baby say, Mama, the water is broke. And my son said, the lights are broke too. The water is broken, the lights were broke. I reached for the phone was off the night before. I was tearing up the carpet and looking in the couch for change to feed my baby because she said, I'm hungry. And my refrigerator had nothing in it. No potato, no onion, nothing. The ice trays were empty. The white cans with the labels that were already gone. Everything was gone. And the sheriff came. And when I opened the door, the rain came down. The hard rain came down. And my son was on my thigh and my daughter on my hip. And she's since passed 7 years now after becoming a school teacher. And he's in the Navy 19 years. But these were my babies. And in the rain, the sheriff told me, because my mind said he's going to take us to a shelter. And he said, you come down off that property. And he drove off. And I came back to New York because my beautiful grandmother had Alzheimer's. But I came back with 2 babies and 27 cents in my pocket. And just like Major Sharon says, here's the thing. I have nothing, but I'm about to ask for everything, because I knew that I wanted to buy a co-op in my grandmother's building. And they told me no. And I says, I know that you said no, but listen, is my apartment ready? Can you have it ready tomorrow? Just a 1-bedroom. And she said, oh, Viviana, I told you no. You have to make at least $35,000 just to fill out the application. This was 1992. And I'm coming back with 2 babies. And everybody said, I heard your husband abandoned you and left you. You got nothing. I knew you'd be a failure. I don't even know how you did the Marines. Something must have hooked you up. And listen, and I insisted every day, is my apartment ready? Just a 1-bedroom. She said, Viviana, don't come back here. Go get a job. And I found a job. I went to welfare to fill out the application. And the social worker said to me, I'm watching you fill out this application. I said, sir, I'm a former United States Marine. He said, you're still a Marine. He said, that's 5 points for preference for a job. I didn't know what he was talking about, because we didn't have a transition that said, okay, here's how you do check it. They said, are you bleeding? I said, no. Do you have headache? I said, no. They said, get out. Nobody said you go to the VA, you can continue on. They gave you this piece of paper that you looked at it. It was for the VA housing loan. No one said that. And he said, I'm going to find you a job. He found me a job at visiting nurse service so my grandmother could get help. And I went back to tell the woman, I found an apartment. And she said to me, Viviana, come here, come here. And I said, no, I'm trying to tell you that I got a job. She said, no, come. She said, listen, your grandmother has lived in this building since you were a child. She said, you practically grew up here. I said, yes, but I'm trying to tell you. She said, Viviana, she said, listen, she did like this. She said, the Lords have been working on me. She says, I'm going to let you buy a 2-bedroom, but I need the money in 72 hours to do this. I want you to know, on the 3rd day, I went to get my grandmother's mail, and there were 2 envelopes, and one fell to the ground. I put my foot on it, and I opened the one that had my full name on it, honey, and was from the Internal Revenue Service that said, Dear Viviana, enclosed for all the years in the 80s that first husband, God rest him, owed child support for another child when he was a teenager. Please find enclosed a check for 5 years worth of federal and 5 years worth of state. I want you to know I bought that 2-bedroom. And here's the thing that I knew as a person who served. I'm talking to everybody who served, because somebody on here is a veteran right now and thinking you're not a veteran, but you served. Here's the thing. I always applied for jobs that said must have a master's degree when I still have my high school diploma, because I knew if I could get in the door, that as someone who served with the discipline, that I could sell myself. And I knew that I could learn the job quick. And guess what I did? I got a corporate job, and with a company car, because a family found favor on me. I shared a sandwich with the daughter at VNS. She went to work for her father, and she never forgot me. When I met her father, I was the long-lost child who got a company car. And he says, I heard you have 2 children. Here's $500, go buy them a toy. We got a car for you. Here's your secretary, blah, 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 blah. And ever since then, I have not allowed myself to tell me no. I let someone tell me no, but I've never told myself no. And even when they told me no, I said, yes, I know you said no yesterday, but what are you saying today? Let's make this thing work. And here I am today, from 27 cents in my pocket tearing up the carpet looking for change just to buy a pack of crackers to feed those babies. Who's now, my son is 38 in the Navy with the family. My daughter since past 7 years, and it was her dreams that says you're gonna leave Mercy and go on to the next in January. That January, boom, you're gonna leave Concordia and go on to the next because you're Veterans Commissioner. That said, Mama, God said, get ready, you're going state. And here I am today, but I
And-
suffered for it.
And here you are. Wow. This is just inspirational. I don't know. I'm just soaking it all in. With that said, so both of you ladies are incredibly accomplished in your careers and all that you do for the community and veterans. So I'm going to ask you kind of like maybe like a 2 or 3 pronged question. How do you what keeps you going? Because you've done more than enough for your families and your communities. What keeps you going, as a woman to do this, especially in the line of work? As healthcare professionals, we can certainly identify with red tape and it's not always easy to get things done. You can have a grand vision, but then you run up against red tape. So how do you keep yourself going? And the other thing too, if you have any advice for women who are in the military, who are out of the military, and what you broke some glass ceilings during the times you both served in the military. What do you think are some glass ceilings within the military that have yet to be cracked for women? If you could maybe share with us.
I don't know exactly because I've been retired like 20 years, so I really don't know what the climate is now. I know I've seen some progress in terms of females taking on major roles and being promoted in the ranks and taking on key positions that heretofore had basically been, only men. I see that, but I don't know whether that's a token position or a position that really has had some strength. And I always refer to Colin Powell. He was given a position, but not the power. And so when he realized that he was not being able to be as effective as he would have liked to have been, and the real private meetings he was not privy to, then as you know, he graciously stepped back. Okay, he graciously stepped back and resigned from the position. And so I think we've made some progress, but we still have not really broken that glass ceiling. We just really haven't done it, and I want to share a story with you, just as a little sidebar, talking about tenacity. When I was in corrections, I fought vehemently to get special foods for the HIV patients. At that time, they were taking like 12 medications and it was making them nauseous and sick. And so when the regular meals would come around, they were not able to eat. So the dietitians, they said, Miss Lindsey, we have all these HIV patients, they feed them at specific times, but they're not able to eat. And so they're going hungry. It's not helping them. So I put in a request, and I did my research of the foods that would help to coat their stomach that they could keep. It wouldn't be a security issue. Like instead of giving them juice, we give them nectars because nectars tend to coat the stomach lining. We would give them like instant oatmeal so they can make it on their own. They didn't have to wait till the regular wagon came by. Little things like that they could fix when they were able to digest it and it not regurgitate. And it was denied. In fact, I was told this is not the Hilton. We will not feed the inmates like this. And we're talking basic things. This is true. But I kept my records. I think about 15% of the population of that was HIV in terms of all of Rikers Island. Fast forward. We got a new commissioner and she brought in one of her roommates to work in a certain healthcare area. And this is a true story. She started dating one of the doctors at the HIV clinic on Rikers. And I guess one night they was having some pillow talk and he was expressing to her that he had been putting in a request in order to get special foods for his HIV patients and that nutritional services had been constantly denied. So I get the call the next morning about, Miss Lindsey, man, I see you in my office. And so I went to the office and I was basically reprimanded for not allowing these certain foods to be ordered. I told him that that was not my decision. It was the executive director at the time. I said, however, I can show you my request. And this is where record keeping and determination is so important. I said, no, I have been putting in the requests for the last 2 or 3 years, and I have been constantly denied because I had all my statistics, what each particular medication was causing in terms of the nausea and the after effects and whatnot. So I said, let me go get my records and my documentation. And I said to her, I said, Commissioner, the only thing that has changed in saying of the side effects is that instead of having 15%, now it's up to 23%. Okay, because naturally the statistics of the men and women that were HIV positive had grown. I said, but here's my research, and I stick to these figures, except it's grown. Do you know I got almost $90,000 just to purchase special foods for the inmates? Okay, so I say that to say that if you know you're on righteous ground, you know you got your facts right, you know you got the statistics, then as you say, Commissioner, God will prevail and he will have your back in terms of if you know you're on solid ground. And I kept my records and, I had to dust them off a little bit, because they had been denied, but I was able to get 90 and we got nectars, the oatmeals, the special foods that allowed them to coat their stomachs so they could take their medication or the medication effect would not be the same. Okay. So you're right. You have to go off the traditional route and you just have to stay your course and keep your faith, knowing that you're right. Okay, because eventually you will be vindicated.
Absolutely.
Okay? It took me about 3 years to be
Absolutely.
vindicated.
Absolutely. We're serving under our first woman governor. And sometimes, I'm sorry to say, but it's true. It takes a woman to fix a house.
How are you?
Sometimes it takes a woman to repair a house, and I'm so glad that she knows that I am a researcher. Everybody wants numbers. I'm a qualitative researcher, and I told her that I know that for one thing, you cannot assume the voice of the veteran or the person who is serving in the military. You have to ask us what it is that we need. And she's allowed me to do what I call the phenomenological, well, not what I call, but what is called the phenomenological qualitative research, which is the experience of those who've served. And so I said that if we ask the veteran and not assume their voice across the state, what their needs were, they may have had some of the needs that I had when I got out of transition, and even some of those while I was still serving, because those who are serving are still in need of so many things. And so she allowed us to change the form. So when the veteran is now sitting with us, we're not just asking you about your claim. We're going to develop that claim. Believe me, we know that you're covered for some things. We've changed it from veteran to those who served. Why? Because again, there's such a disparage between those who are combat and not combat. Those who served one day in boot camp is eligible for something. Those who were at a duty station but didn't finish their time, eligible for something. Those who got hurt in boot camp, the same thing. Eligibility, but we all served. I tell people, if you wore the uniform and you did this, you served. We all have that gas chamber experience. We all have it. You have served. So we have changed the terminology from the veterans for those who've served air, land, sea, and we know now space. We're asking you now, do you have a significant other in your home who needs employment? Why? Because the PTS and any kind of stress, I have PTS from my daughter's death, any kind of stress, if you can have your mate be employed, that will lessen the stress. So we ask, do you have significant other that needs to be employed. Now we're asking, do you have a family? Are they school-aged children? Do they need book bags? So why? We can supply book bags. Now we have resources to help them get school clothing. We have some wonderful, through the philanthropic organizations, folk out there who've given us brand new coats and clothing and footwear for the families. Are you expecting a baby? Why? Because now we have Operation Baby, where we are joining with others for the Operation Shower and our amazing partners at the American Legion Auxiliary. If you are not a member, I did not know, I've never heard, Major Sharon, Speed and Lindsey of the American Legion. And then when I did, they were calling me in as a speaker, but no one had ever asked me to join. And I'm so glad that I answered the call for people that needed items for a SWAT meet and things. And this amazing commander and his wife reached out to me to join. And I have been a part of this beautiful thing that I did not even know existed. The American Legion, if you're transitioning out, you know, look at one in your local area, let them know you're getting ready to transition out, and then join it, because we all have a special language and lingo. There's still a ceiling. Listen, we have some mobiles that's getting ready to hit the ground. The New York State Bar Association has partnered with us. So now if you're having adoption issues, or you need going through a divorce like I went through, if you need representation in housing, contact me for the New York State Bar Association to get a pro bono attorney. We partner with Bomba Socks and so many other things that speaks to who I am as the veteran. But still, guess what? There's still a ceiling, because my pay is not equitable with that of the commissioner for New York City Department of Veteran Services. He's the 5 boroughs, you know, and Staten Island, Long Island. I'm the entire state. I'm boogie down New York City, Bronx, and I'm a Bronx, Brooklyn girl. I'm New York City, Bronx to Buffalo and in between, and my pay is nowhere near close.
What?
And so there is still barriers. We're getting ready to have our first woman admiral in the United States Coast Guard. Right now she's Captain Zita Merchant right here in New York City. And still the barriers, no one gave it to her. She earned it, but still the disrespect that we experience being a woman. And I can tell you, traveling across this state, no one wanted to see me. They said, you only last a month. We don't need you here. And this is not going to work. And I've gone in the smallest of towns and changed their signage from veteran. Okay, we only have 3 women veterans sign up. And I said, let's put for those who served. And then they called me back. They said, we have 65 women. And the program had 60 women. And I said, change the signage for those who've served. And they now have over 300 women in their community.
So we're running low on time. So we're down to 5-minute mark.
Okay.
I'll see if Tiffany let me run over, but I know that one of the standards here at Mount Sinai is to try to keep meetings within the time that we have. So I just want to read some comments from our audience, and I again love to hear your thoughts. So I'm going to start with Lisa, and forgive me for pronunciation, Lisa Bura. It is so incredible to hear about your military experiences. As an Army veteran myself and a woman, everything you say hits so close to home. I love that both of you have been able to stay close to the military roots and inspired your work. I'm currently working on a research study that looks at head injuries in service members. Do you have any tips on how to really partner and collaborate with veteran organizations to bring awareness? Let me just read all the other comments and then I'll give you a chance to respond. Saida Henderson, I'm 48 and preparing to leave the Army at the end of the year after serving 13 years because of an issue with my promotion. Sometimes the military, even as a reservist, is taxing on civilian life because the new Army requires so much more time beyond that 1 weekend and 2 weeks for Saida also comments, what advice can you give to a veteran at the crossroads? And one more, Lena Fonseca. Viviana, I just want to tell you how amazing and resilient you are. If you are my inspiration as a woman and as a mother of 2. Same thing happened to me with my first husband. He left. So I just want to give you all a chance to that. And I also want to add to that, to the comment. I wanted to know what your opinion was. I saw a lot of parallels during the COVID-19 crisis, and what our healthcare heroes saw here on the front lines. And I really thought about veterans, and it was in many ways a war zone. And so I think there's a parallel now and a shared experience because of the COVID-19, in my opinion, pandemic. And I wanted to know if you could touch on that as well. So I'm going to let you ladies have the floor.
Mhm. I'm going to defer to the commissioner first, naturally. Mhm.
Thank you so much. First of all, again, for the transition, first let me go back for the our researcher. One of the things that I want you to do is send me a flyer on what it is you're doing. We're now doing what's called the PATS program, partners across the state. I think it makes sense for us, those of us who have any type of service, especially one that can be for those who've served, to have it on one platform. And so I'm asking everyone across the state, please send me your flyers, because as our veterans and those who've served are traveling throughout the states, it makes sense for us to know what is happening in various areas, what is going on for the women, what is being given. And here's the thing that I tell people: we don't ask for anything, but please know that you have earned everything, because the word service are all harsh meanings: to travail, as in labor pain, to hit, to batter, to smite. We're still hitting, battering, and smiting old ideas and regimes of who can serve and what that service looks like. So get your flyer to the organizations. Also reach out to people at the VA, like the Bronx VA. Start with women's wellness. Women are usually tagging on to each other to assist each other. And so while there's a lot of research needs in those areas, as an outsider, you start with the women's wellness, but certainly give us your flyers as well. And then what was the other part of that question, Tanisha? Mama V's getting old now. Hey.
No, okay, about the research,
Yes.
question. And she oh, let me scroll back up. I'm sorry. She just do you have any tips on how to really partner and collaborate with veteran organizations to try to bring awareness? So maybe we could send a follow-up link. I'll work with Tiffany and Jasmine, so that anyone who was with us today can connect, because I think we could have some amazing connections here between healthcare and veterans organizations. And also too, if you could just touch on about any upcoming events. Like, I was reading your CV, Sharon, you have like a pantry in the park, and Commissioner, if you could just kind of give us like an elevator pitch about, we've talked about so many great programs out there, like what stuck with me, Commissioner, when you said a lot of veterans are suffering needlessly when they're coming through our doors here at Mount Sinai, and there's all kinds of benefits and help for them, and they're just not aware. So this is our time to maybe spread the word to some healthcare professionals here to, because we're at the ground zero for a lot.
Good. Let me say this really quickly. I want you all to write this down right now. There is an emergency grant for those who've served. Doesn't matter if you've been out 40, 50 years, or just out, if you are serving in the military, if you need assistance with your rent, mortgage is included in there, utilities, behind utilities, car repair, emergency appliance, anything that you deem as an emergency. When in doubt, fill it out on the veterans website, veterans.ny.gov, under housing. We've made this application so easy. The cap is at 155,000, so that everybody, the people who are in the donut hole, I used to fall in between that donut hole, can do it. And please get a benefits checkup. It does not hurt to email me. My email is in there to say, Mama V, I need a benefits checkup. You would be surprised on how many things each day the VA is now saying that we have been exposed to in areas. I don't care if you did admin. You may have been in an area where you were exposed to bad air, bad water, bad noise. And I want to say the last thing, that do in your ear is not the Holy Ghost calling you up. That is called tinnitus. And then for those who serving our elderly, the aid and attendance benefit for those who've served and their spouse, if need be, to keep them home, or if they're in assisted living, to not have to have them move out. Please contact me for more information.
And I'd like to just add to what Commissioner DeCohen said. Again, coming out of the church, I know if you want something done, you have to assign it to a woman. So what I did is I reactivated our auxiliary at Post 483. So we have a very active auxiliary, which is the wives and the sisters and one or two men, but mostly all the women. And what we have been able to do over the last year since COVID has sort of subsided is, and I am an educator, so everything I do from an educational component, because we have a big 394 capacity facility. And I didn't want it just to be an echo or empty chamber. So what we have scheduled, and we've been doing it, is we have CPR classes quarterly. We have mental health training. We've been doing that at least twice a year since the pandemic now. And that's where you're coming for the 8 hours, you know, the mental health first aid training. We have disaster preparedness, where we have the veterans in the community coming from the state, and they actually train everybody about disaster preparedness. And you leave with a very nice, like a book bag with all the things that you need on an emergency basis. We also have blood pressure monitoring every Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday when you come to the pantry. While you're waiting in line, you can have your blood pressure checked. And we also give you nutritional counseling on site. We try to utilize, like you say, if you build it, they will come. So while they're waiting in line, we said, come on inside and have your blood pressure taken every day. So that's a phenomenal project that we have also. And last but not least, we just got certified, I think it's Article 31 or 13, I always get it confused, for mental health for the veterans and the community. So now we're a licensed facility as well as that is concerned. So again, we're trying to reach out to the veterans and the community. We're trying to keep everything alive. We're trying to let them know that we are here. Because I always felt if we could go overseas and build bridges and build communities and inoculate people in foreign countries, which I'm very, very grateful for, and I think is well needed. We also need to do it right here domestically and provide these services in our own community.
Also too, I just want to make mention, I actually did some research on you, Sharon. I saw you on Pix 11. You were also distinguished as a Woman of the Year, and I saw your interview, and I found it impressive that not only are you helping veterans and fellow New Yorkers, or I like to call civilians, who didn't serve, you also been helping out with the migrant crisis as well.
Yeah.
So I think you need a vacation. You're doing a lot.
We're trying to plan a cruise now.
But there you go, well deserved. And also too, Commissioner, you also talked about the fact that a lot of because we're here in the downstate area, 5 boroughs, and the suburbs, you're saying that downstate veterans really don't take advantage of those benefits. Is that correct?
Listen, this is true across the entire state. And again, it's the signage, it's the veterans. And I'm going into towns, I'm telling you, I'm going to towns where we don't need you. I know my veterans in town. And we put up the signage that say for those who served, and people come right up to the table. We're not even fully set up. Hey, I served. I'm not a veteran because I was just in admin or a journalist. But I served 4 years in the Army. I said, really? I said, you know, in this town, 35 years. I said, you know him? No. You know him? No. You know her? No. We found 55 women in one small town, and another one 4 by 4 square miles where they thought there were three women over 100 women. Serve.
And I was also wondering if you could share, and maybe I'll find a way to get it out to the group. You said you had some like little questionnaires that we can maybe start asking our patients to screen for, because a lot
That's
of,
right. We're getting
lot of-
ready to release what's called the pocket card, and it's getting ready to go out to our medical professionals as a little cheat sheet that you can ask the clients when they come in. I was recently hospitalized in another state, and no one asked me if I was a veteran. And if they had known that, according to my symptomology, it may have given them some clues to what was going on. And so that was something that I was able to relay to that director in that state. That unlike a lot of places, they did not ask that, because that would have given them some clues to some things. But no, listen, we are also not accessing, not because we did not know, but also because we have a guilt complex. A lot of people say, listen, I have my arms and legs, so I'm okay. But I want you to know that the VA has plenty of money, honey. They have your money. They still have your money that you haven't utilized from the GI Bill, or for those of us that were under the Veterans Educational Assistance Program. Go under va.gov under education, call the 1-800 number, give them your name, your last four. It takes less than 5 minutes, and ask them, do I have any money left on my Veterans Education Assistance Program or GI Bill? And they'll say, hold on, and come back in less than 5 minutes and say, you still have 2 years and 4 months left. Would you like to use it or a refund? Say, I would like a refund, please. And they will send you your check. Do this with your Vietnam era veterans. Do this with anybody that has a DD-214, that you can look on it and see the box checked for VEAP, Veterans Educational Assistance Program. Or even if you think, well, I have my degree, you may still have 4 months left on your GI Bill, and go ahead and get your money.
Okay.
this was, my cup runneth over. This was an amazing panel, and I hope that you ladies, is definitely, I'm already reading the comments. We want an encore with you both, if you're willing to have us. And of course, we'll coordinate that down the road sometimes, but we hope this won't be the last time. But I have to wrap this panel up, but we're hoping this won't be the last time that we meet. And happy Women's History Month to everyone, and everyone who came and participated. And I don't know if any of my my leads here, military ERG leads, if you want to say anything before we go.
This is Colonel St. Pierre, retired. You guys are phenomenal women, and I will be reaching to you, Commissioner, because we have a lot of women, Black women out there, female women that need you. So I will be reaching out to you. Excellent. Thank you very much. On behalf of Mount Sinai, you guys were like A++. Thank you.
Thank you, and we'll see you again. This won't be a goodbye.
Thank you all. I
Thank
also just
you.
want to
Thank
add that we
you.
added to
Bye-bye.
the chat. We do have a bowling night every second Friday of the month. So the Military Veterans ERG does have a bowling night every second Friday of the month. So if you would like to join, please reach out to us, and we will see you at Bolero.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank
Okay,
you.
bye, everybody.
Bye.
Yeah.
Sharon, I'm going to call you.
Okay, very good. Thank you, Carol. Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.